Let me ask, if there was a tournament you could bring any arc from any anime, what arc are you bringing? Well, I can tell you now, my pick is Greed Island, and I feel like it wouldn't be too hard to come out champion based off of a few things. So let's talk about why Greed Island is the best arc in anime. First of all, I want to start by saying Hunter x Hunter is a top tier anime altogether, but the reason Greed Island stands out to me is because it's pretty much its own contained story. Like, without everything else around it, Gon and Killua doing a whole quest just to find the game in order to find Jing, who even well after this point we aren't intimately familiar with Jing, so it's not like you miss any information pertaining to Gon and Jing's relationship, if you stop watching after that point. And let's just say we cut Greed Island out as an arc of Hunter x Hunter and just have it be its own anime. Well, it works in a couple different ways. Number one, it's for sure the best isekai you will ever see, considering Gon and Killua seek out the game, and though they don't know it's going to teleport them to an actual island to play the game, I'm sure already being hunters and dealing with the things that they had dealt with, that wasn't necessarily out of the question. And it only makes sense that Nin would be involved when you're on the heels of one of the top legendary hunters to ever live. And side note, these hunters are just rich by trade pretty much, but to see kids play with an amount of money that our biggest and greediest companies would cry and die over kind of devalued money for me as a kid, and I think the journey to Greed Island was just as interesting as the island itself. With the world building and the teasing of Gon's mom, it was all lead up to Greed Island as a concept and still managed to stay foundational. Without this first part of the arc, Greed Island wouldn't have the same impact, and even down to certain events it seems to have nothing to do with, it informs and backs those moments in a complementary way. For example, when it's revealed that Nin is the thing that activates the box Jing left for Gon, and the game itself, only Gon and Killua are around, and it signifies their furtherance into Nin on their own personal accords, and the growth they've already had, usually needing an adult or more knowledgeable person around to progress or solve a problem, and they are kids so that doesn't stop, but this is the first time they're on their own completely, at least until they meet Bisky, and this is where we actually talk about Greed Island itself. And man, if it were tweaked with even just a small amount of care and creativity, Greed Island could have been a trading card game, a MMORPG, a AAA video game, or even just its own anime. Forget Gon and Killua, even Jing. Just an anime about the game would have been able to hold its own weight. And the crazy part is, you don't really have to explain anything because the things are already so complicated, they make their own insulated lore. This is a game. In the real world, some people have innate abilities and some don't. They all find different methods of gaining entrance to the game, and once inside, this is how it operates. And sure, you might be interested in the outside world, and I'm certain there are tons of ways to tie that in, but just the stories you could get off in a setting where cards are the main power system, but not the only one, and even if you keep the same canon that Gon comes in and wins the whole thing, you can still have a whole series about the first batch of players, the factions, the wars, the plots to cheat or destroy the game being foiled. You basically have a 10-year gap where you don't even have to mention Gon. Or you could spend as much time as you want alluding to and gap filling the main story, and you could focus on an individual, a group, hell, you could do anthology type stories with a setup like this, and it's one of those things where I could totally see it spinning off the heels of Hunter x Hunter in the same way Yu-Gi-Oh! Made that pivot that wasn't really a pivot, more of a lock-in, but my point is, Greed Island was more than just a stepping stone for Gon to meet his dad. It was the flex of all flexes. Togashi just all of a sudden conceived, executed, and then abandoned one of the best ideas in anime and manga in the middle of his second hit story. And just to put that into context, imagine you're a gold miner and you've been at it for years with nothing but dirt to show for it, and you look over to your left and Togashi is just shitting gold. I can only imagine it to be the most frustrating, humbling, respectable feeling, knowing he's such a legend. He not only did all that, but actually had a compelling story through line that not only didn't stop there, it never looked back. Greed Island was an afterthought to Hunter x Hunter, and to be honest, I don't know if that helped or hurt it. Because, on the one hand, being a direct product of the world of Hunter x Hunter means there's certain keys built into its framework that make it work so well. But, on the other hand, that means Greed Island is kind of tethered to Hunter x Hunter in a way that's irreversible because Nin exists, and most, if not all, of the players are aware of and have it. So, at the very least, even as its own anime, it's referencing back to another anime that has all but moved on from it, and wouldn't be in the same time period, so it would be kind of weird. But we've watched worse anime with more caveats than that, and speaking of which, if you can guess my pick for worst arc in anime, I'll give you a shout out in my worst arc in anime video. That will probably come out after the next video. So, I hope you enjoyed this one, because I appreciate you watching, and until next time, peace.
That thunder on me clap, make a nigga think before he act. Have a nigga dying on his back, then we double back. Shooters leaving rubber where you at, that's why niggas never wanna match.